Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep It Movin', the show on the Monkmatics channel where I, your host, Monk, aka the Monkmatician, is going to be giving you 3 fighters to fade this week or keep it moving on for UFC Vegas 53 happening this Saturday, April 30th, headlined by Rob Font and Chito Vera. So before we get into it, guys, some real quick business. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell as well so you never miss any DFS content coming up before these UFC cards. And please, like I just said, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 250 or more before the next pay-per-view, and we're about 15 away. So thank you so much, everybody, for clicking that button. And if you haven't yet, I really would appreciate that. And then be sure to check out the MMA Engine, guys. I just released a Salary Voodoo video over there. It's me, Wheezy, Brady, and Lou Betya coming out with content pretty much every single day leading up to these UFC events, so be sure to like and subscribe to that channel as well, MMA Engine over on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get into the very first play, or very first fighter that you should keep it moving on for UFC Vegas 53. At $8,800, the first fighter is going to be Krzysztof Jotko. Going against Gerald Meerschaert this week could be an interesting fight. Low scoring upside for Krzysztof Jotko, scoring only 2.69 raw DraftKings points per minute, averaging less than 80 DraftKings points per win, and he has 10 UFC wins. So this is a big sample size, and he's not even touching 80 points per win on average. And he only gets 7.35 average DK value when he wins, so he's only 7xing. That's not going to make the optimal, especially at this very high salary of $8,800. Jotko also has pretty poor striking numbers, 2.92 significant strikes landed per minute, and he only throws 7.03, relatively low numbers, especially for the division. With that low volume, he has a low accuracy to pair with it, 41.6% significant striking accuracy. And to top off that, his Chindex is higher than his power index. You never want to see that. That means he's been knocked down more than he is knocking people down. To finish this out, he has some bad salary voodoo. $8,800 has the second lowest DraftKings score per win at 88.94, so barely 10xing when it wins. 17.65% of the time, the $8,800 salary makes the optimal lineup. That is the second or third worst rate out of all salaries DraftKings offers, and it has the lowest optimal rate per win at 24.32%. So guys, some pretty bad numbers from Krzysztof Jotko offensively when it comes to volume and the salary voodoo as well. So I'm going to be keeping it moving on Krzysztof Jotko this week. Next fight that we will be fading, or next fighter I should say, Francisco Figueiredo. A very poor DK score at $8,000, averaging only 2.84 raw DraftKings points per minute. He scores only 76.41 points per win. And I believe he only has one win in the UFC, so that is just, a very small sample size, but still lower than the fighter we just discussed, who was at about 79. And his value in his only win was 6.61. That's not getting you on the optimal, no matter what your salary is. Also for Figgy, low fight statistics, 1.90 significant strikes landed per minute, and he only throws 3.27. There's so many fighters that land way more than that, and he's only throwing 3.27 per minute. He has a very low strength of schedule as well, a 58.89 opponent win percentage in his last 5 fights. And in his 2 UFC fights, they've both been very low scoring decisions, 80 points and 76. So guys, very low fight stats for Francisco Figueiredo. He's also pretty one-dimensional, takedown reliant, and that means he can get predictable. So if you have any kind of sprawl, or if Daniel Da Silva has any kind of sprawl, he would be wise to be practicing it this past week. Relies on control time to win decisions, so not necessarily a lay and pray, but he does have a ton of control time and does know how to keep the fight on the ground, but that does not always translate to high DraftKings scoring. And he also has the 7th highest takedown shooting rate at flyweight. So again, that kind of rounds the category out of him being one-dimensional. He does not have much of a striking game, and even if he did, it is very low volume. So if Daniel Da Silva can sprawl and avoid some of these takedowns and control time, I think he has a decent chance of winning this fight. But at $8,000, I have no problem fading Francisco Figueiredo. And I know I just switched to the camera, but I should have done that about 30 seconds ago. So guys, one last time before we go on to the third and final fighter to fade, thank you for joining me. Please hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell as well, and you'll never miss anything DraftKings related for the UFC cards. Now, the third and final fighter that we are going to be keeping it moving on for UFC Vegas 53 is none other than Fat Collier. Shout out Uncle Weezy. Jake Collier, $7,800. I mean, how could you not fade this guy? He should win the fight against Andrei Arlovski, but this is probably going to decision. And that's kind of where I'm focused on when I broke this down. Jake Collier, very poor scores in decisions. 5 of 10 UFC fights have gone the distance. 82.8 DraftKings points per unanimous decision win for Jake Collier. And when he gets a split decision win, 20 points worse. 60.62 points per split decision win. Not great for old FC. And defensively, he's got a defensively sound opponent this week. So Andrei Arlovski may be pretty old at 43, but he is pretty defensively sound, allowing only 2.26 raw DraftKings points per minute and only 90 when he loses. So, 10 points higher than the guys we've been looking at, but still nowhere near what you would need to make the optimal lineup at the $8,400 price range for Arlovski. Also, Arlovski allowing only 73.05 DraftKings points per unanimous decision and only 52 in split decisions. So you mix those with the numbers that I gave you for Jake Collier in decisions, and it averages down even lower into the 70s and into the 50s in split decisions. Projection for me, this fight goes to decision. 7 of the last 10 aggregate fights between these two have gone the distance. Arlovski has not been knocked down since 2019, and these guys have just a 48% finish rate in the UFC in their wins. So just because I think this one goes to decision, and I don't see how Jake Collier scores well at all with these very low numbers, give me the big fade on Jake Collier. I'll be fading this fight as a whole. I don't think either heavyweight is going to get a finish or a relatively high score, but especially give me the fade on Jake Collier. So guys, we did it. Those are the 3 fighters we will be fading this week. Krzysztof Jotko at 8,800, Francisco Figueiredo at 8,000, and Fat Collier at 7,800. So guys, thank you again for joining me. Like, subscribe to the channel, check out the MMA engine as well. And guys, actually, sorry, I almost finished it up. Check out my game theory video. I put that out yesterday, Tuesday afternoon, and that is the series where I break down all 12 UFC fights coming up on this card from a DraftKings perspective. So about 5 minutes on each fight, kind of tell you who to target, who's good for cash, who to fade, etc. without as much detail, as these big fades videos that I do here. So thank you for joining me. Be sure to check out everything I offer on the channel. And as usual, I want all of you to enjoy the fight. So enjoy. We'll see you next time. Thanks.